Hosted by Dr. George Gaitanos, Chief Scientific and Operating Officer at Chenot. This podcast explores what truly improves health and functionality, detoxification, nutrition, sleep, metabolic health, and more. Join Chenot experts and guests for clear, evidence-informed conversations with practical takeaways you can use today. Let's begin.
In this month's episode, we will be uncovering the Chenot Diet from our nutritionist point of view. In conversation today, we have Dr. Antonio di Mauro, Research and Innovation Manager at Chenot Group. Antonio is a nutritionist with a master's degree in food science and human nutrition and a PhD in integrated biomedical sciences. Together with Antonio, we welcome Felicia Gaitanou, nutritionist at the Chenot Palace Weggis, specialized in biological sciences with a master's degree in nutrition, with extensive experience exploring the balance between micronutrient needs and cellular health. Let's start.
We are known for our detox programs and our detox diet. So let me start by just saying, before we go into depth, what detox means for you. Antonio, let's start with you.
Well, to me, it means cell rejuvenation from the very inside at a very molecular, cellular level, as if it's like a micro engine, very tiny engine, and we are able to remove the rust and whatever is not that performing. And by means of this cleansing, we manage to reactivate, restore cell function. Let's think at both the inside, intracellular environment, where there are these little organelles like mitochondria or reticulum apparatus, Golgi apparatus, autophagosomes definitely play a key role. But also at the membrane side, this double phospholipid layer to restore the fluidity and the permeability, although.
Yeah, so we're trying really to rejuvenate the cell, if I'm understanding.
Re-optimize.
You optimize by trying to clean, allow the cells to do their regular cleanup, so in a more intense way.
Mm-hmm.
But when the clients are coming, Felicia, how do they perceive this kind of diet detox? How do they understand, in your opinion? Because you are in continuous, collaboration with, meeting the people, coming. How do they perceive detox?
So in the beginning, sometimes they're often quite nervous to start until they really understand the power of the detox of our method. I always explain to them as imagine your body is sick and you're going through a period of starvation in this moment. When you're sick, the body naturally loses appetite on purpose so it can feed on that damaged tissue. You naturally don't crave proteins when you're sick because the body knows that will interfere with the cleaning mechanism. So you crave some carbs, some vegetables, and the body's naturally doing its own cleaning. And I think of it the same as what we go through here.
And if someone worries about hunger, what do you say to them?
I'm honest. I tell them in the first 2-3 days, you will have some symptoms. You'll have some headache, lack of energy. You will be hungry, but it's how you have to build resilience against it, because building resilience then improves your daily management to stress at the end as well.
Yeah. Antonio, for whom you think we could recommend a detox program?
Well, I would recommend almost to everyone, because we live in a society where we are, first of all, bombarded by advertisings on food. Anytime we walk down a street, it's full of food-related shops, no matter what, supermarkets, restaurants, takeaways, kiosks and stuff. And everybody needs to reset hunger, whether it's real hunger or appetite or emotional eating, or think also of our psychological and physical performance as a soul. Our organism needs to have this kind of pit stop every now and then to reinstall hormone functionality and overall promote, good working in our system.
Yes, but I think at molecular level, I think it should be recommended almost to everybody, because, we know that we're aging because the body is accumulating damage. And so when you give a low-calorie diet, then the body is resetting because it allows the cells, you help the cells to recycle their waste, either making new proteins or take, damaged proteins to the waste bin. And I think, but obviously, we Felicia, is not really recommended for everyone, right? I mean,
well, we wouldn't recommend it to to women who are breastfeeding or pregnant. I'm not sure when we're much older if it's something that I would definitely recommend for everybody, 70 years old and older. Maybe my focus would be more on strength training, flexibility, mobility, proteins. But again, it depends on the person.
Yes, but I think also for older people, if you don't really do the intense, but you go really a little bit later in the calorie restriction, I think it does help. To reset metabolism and improve functionality. I think dieting, it's a very powerful way, to clean the body. So let's move now into the Chenot diet in more specific. So if you want to tell us a little bit more about it, Antonio, and tell us a little bit about the features of the diet, the scientific rationale behind the diet, and variability.
So the Chenot Detox diet is a fasting-mimicking diet, plant-based, or better, we should say vegan.
What is a fasting-mimicking diet? Do you want to explain to all?
Yeah, by definition, we mimic, so we simulate fasting, which is calorie deprivation. But in saying so, it's not a zero-calorie fasting. So we provided 150 calories a day, which again is not zero, so it's not complete starvation.
Why 850? Is there a reason why we give 850 in GoFM?
Well, there's a reason that is based on experience, because this belongs to the Chenot Method since years now. And again, it's not zero, but it's something that is doable by everyone. I'm talking about adults. And that's the contraindication that you just saying before. So it's a calorie threshold that proved to activate autophagy, that proved to activate cell senescence and ultimately functionality. It has other features. Again, it's vegan, so we rely on vegetable-derived food. It's a low-protein diet then. Protein content is a little bit below 10%, around 10% a day.
And the rest of that?
The rest is equally distributed across complex carbohydrates, simple sugars, organic sugars, and plant-derived fats, so good fats. It is low in calorie, but high and packed in nutrients, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. Dietary fiber content is also high. Of course, it's not a 20 gram per 1,000 kilocalorie, let me say Mediterranean-like, but we provide daily fresh fruit, whether it's cooked or fresh raw veggies. Therefore, we nourish the body.
So this 850 calories is for everyone, I think?
Well, with such a purpose of cell rejuvenation, it is for everyone. Disregarding of the body weight, gender, athletic condition. Of course, then we run extensive medical and nutritional consultations upon arrival to make sure that there is no contraindications or personal problems, or could be cardiovascular or psychological. Person might not be ready. But scientifically, with this 850, we can induce autophagy and induce this fasting mimicking related beneficial mechanisms, whether it is a 100-kilo man or 60, 70-kilo woman.
At the end, as long as you're below the metabolic demand of the person, which nobody is below 1,000, we know 850 works for everybody.
I want to ask you, Felicia, obviously, by delivering this 850 calorie, there is a lot of literature behind it. We know that you downregulate certain metabolic pathways, which give this kind of anabolic drive to the body, and you don't want that to help clean the body. But a lot of people also, they associate the detox diets with weight loss. I don't know if you are...
It's the number one...
encountering this.
Every time.
How do you explain, or people are scared? Because now in media also there's all this big thing about protein. So what are the challenges you are facing, and how do you explain to them?
Yeah, one of the main concerns is, will I lose my muscles? I don't want to lose too much weight, and I need my protein. But the body can manage 1 week or even more without animal-derived proteins. Your body wants to go through periods of fasting, so because what you're doing now, I tell them, how do you feel in this moment? And they say, I'm very weak, I'm very tired, I'm not feeling very good. And they're eating very healthy, they're exercising, but I tell them what you're doing now isn't working, so we need to shock the system in some kind of way. Okay. And regenerate yourself.
Yeah, I think the way I see things, and correct me if I'm wrong, is once you give the right inputs to the body, diet is one of it, but then you let your internal medicine to take over, because the body really knows exactly what to do.
Definitely.
So you really, what you want to do is you want to activate your defenses through the food. Okay, so in this way, I say food is therapy, like with an anti-aging perspective, because you are trying to combat this accumulation of damage, which is inevitable. And of course, with lifestyle, you can even exaggerate. So what happens to protein turnover? What happens to protein during the program? We know because the food has no protein inside, it's very little, plant-based.
Yeah.
So what happens?
So there's a pool, we call it a pool of circulating amino acids in the body, in the blood. And in the end, there's no loss of muscle mass. There is loss of potentially lean mass that occurs by means of water loss. And protein is essentially the organs that are involved, so mostly the liver. Then it feels that there is this, let me say, deficiency. The body feels that there is deficiency of nutrients. That's why this autophagy is activated, and that's why old, no longer performing, senescent organelles into the cells, including mitochondria, are engulfed, so are self-eaten. This is what autophagy means in the end. So the body, as if it eats itself and recycles. So that during the week, there's this, we may say, roller coaster effect. And we meet our guests on a daily basis and ask them, day 1, day 2, how are you feeling? And they seemingly they struggle. They tell us, I've headache, or I feel weak, I need my protein, what you were saying before. But then thanks to amino acids pool turnover and reutilization in the end by the cells itself, by day 4, 5, 6, on average, people start feeling better from the very inside and shine again. So biochemically, there is no need to then supplement or check for sarcopenia or loss of, bones or something.
Yeah, I think if I may add to what you were saying, what you really want to do is you want to give the chance to the body to recycle damage. And damage primarily is proteins. Okay, so what you're actually trying to do is by feeding them with less protein and reducing the calories, you are helping this recycling mechanism to clean your cells. I think that's a key here. And as a result of all this, what are in your opinion, Felicia, the potential benefits of such a diet?
When they're finished, I always get comments saying how amazing they feel. They feel lighter, the digestion is working better, they're not bloated anymore, but they have energy. They have energy and they have motivation to go back to good habits, which is one of the main things. They want to keep up, learn what they've learned. They learn a lot whilst they're with us, and they want to implement it into their daily lives.
What are the phases they go through?
So it's always the first 1 to 3 days in the beginning of the fast where they are struggling with headaches, dizziness, lack of energy. They often complain about lower back pain. Lack of sleep is disturbed as well. But from the 4th day, when you've crossed that metabolic switch, from burning carbs to burning your fat, they start to have huge amounts of energy. They're thinking clearly. They feel much better.
So when they finish the program, you give them some practical advice, what to do, how often to do this kind of diet, what to follow.
In the first consultation, we have 2 consultations with them. In the first consultation, we understand the guest, we understand their eating habits at home, the supplements they're taking, their daily life routines, and we retain some of their results whilst they're here. We do the body composition, we do the biomarkers, and we use that to help us develop a report for them at the end, with how often to eat certain foods, breakfast, lunch, dinner recommendations, and additional recommendations as well, especially how to fast at home too.
And then because we have a lot of repeaters and there are a lot of guests coming back and back again, do people stick to doing things or they take accountability or just...
Well, recently I had a guest who came to us, I don't know, he was morbidly obese, and I saw him again this week, and he actually lost a lot of his weight, retained his muscle, because he was strength training and eating up protein at the same time, and he's changed his whole life. Everything from his blood results had reversed itself.
And you see this in quite a few years, or it's just a unique...
I'd like to see more.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think people know what they need to do. They just don't do it. And the big question is always, how do you change behavior? And that's a big thing. Antonio, you think, because this is a very intense program, I mean, I ask both of you, but you think that people should be coming prepared to do this kind of intensive diet? Because we also do a lot of diagnostics, and I hear that people sort of start eating less, they don't drink coffee, but we do the diagnosis. So when you do the diagnostics and you're not coming prepared, what are you measuring? I mean, I don't know.
Very tricky question, because like on one hand, it would be somehow easy to say, yes, please come here prepared and detoxify from caffeine before, because this is, of course, a caffeine-free diet, of course, alcohol-free, clearly. However, adjusting too much pre-arrival could potentially, from a scientific point of view, bias what we then discover, what we then measure with the Chenot biomarkers, lifestyle, or with the body composition, or with, resting metabolic rate, RMR, or VO2 max, which is like the marker for fitness. So on one hand, it's like, mostly I would say, get yourself prepared from a psychological point of view. But from a lifestyle point of view, dietary habits, physical activity habits, sleep habits and patterns, don't pre-adjust too much. Then, of course, all the time I advise for contextualization and see on a case-by-case basis. Because if you come from overseas, then sleep, then eating patterns could be somehow more impacted coming to Switzerland or anywhere like at Chenot, since you travel across multiple time zones. And if, on the other hand, you come from not too far away, then just be prepared, because particularly if you never fasted, if you never watched the three main meals, because we provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner, three meals, no snacks. Portion-wise, I mean, portions are not that huge.
And it's a shock.
Yes. We mostly eat firstly with our eyes. They say all the time. Then of course with smell, and then. But in the end, if the meal breakfast is a tiny portion, and we say transparently during the first consults all the time, when we talk with potential guests or journalists, like people should be at least consider this in their mind before they approach, And then we discuss together with any other any other personal needs, if any.
On the subject of the diet and personalization, I want to ask, because we're 8 billion people on this planet. I usually say we have 8 billion diets, and we're delivering these 850 calories across the board, to almost everybody. But how do we handle sort of allergies, intolerances, individual needs? How do we do that?
So in our first consultation with the guest, we ask them, we say, do you have any allergies, any intolerances, any specific dislikes that we have to avoid for you this week? And then we communicate that with the restaurant, and it's taken into account, so that we are being careful with the guest.
So we are personalizing
exactly.
the ingredients. So you as a nutritionist, because I understand that the whole journey is that we discuss about this emotional experience. In the beginning they feel, tired, maybe they set something and everything. Exactly. I mean, in addition to our medical team and everything, how you as a nutritionist, how do you support the journey of through these phases that the people are going Because I'm sure they will come and say, well, I'm not feeling this or I do this.
No, I tell them we'll see each other the last time before you go home, but we're always here in case you need us. We do visit the restaurant on rotation every single day during lunchtime. And if there's a problem, the guests will approach us. We'll have a conversation. If we need to adjust something, we compromise on something together. So we're always supporting them as we go along.
For people who don't want to lose weight, but obviously as a side effect, they will lose some weight. I think primarily this will be water.
Mm-hmm.
How do we explain what is actually happening?
I believe that here education, we also lecture our guests about that and about many topics related to health. In the end, body weight is a number. We need to explain what happens inside the body when we fast, when we mimic fasting during such an experience, for instance. So water is a kind of like the main buffer in our body. Still, it weighs. Like I say all the time, if you drink now a glass of water, you'll get an average of 200 grams. If you drink a liter, you'll get 1 kilo instantly. So I refer all the time on body composition and I dig a little bit in biochemistry, what happens to our body reserves. So the average body could lose a little bit of fat as a result, because in the end, no one is meeting their daily calorie needs because of these only 850 kilocalories a day. But it will be mostly water, again, as a result of detoxification, of getting rid of toxins, of getting rid of cell debris, intracellular space is being cleaned, but also the extracellular space, so the tiny interstitial fluid gets to be cleansed. Think of lymphatic drainage that takes place during sleep. So there is a huge flushing away. So I explain like what happens on this. In the end, this is a short time.
Yes,
this is a week.
Within at the end of the week or 2 weeks, they stay. I mean, going back to normal life, I think they regain the weight.
Totally.
But they lost. So I don't think it's a big issue considering the huge benefits you are receiving.
Totally.
As a result of this program and the diet. So you mentioned, we mentioned in the morning we give fruit. So is the rationale behind this?
Well, the rationale is to feed the brain, to feed the liver, to feed the body with organic sugars, with a little bit of dietary fiber. Fresh fruit could be raw, could be cooked, could be a compote. In the end, we provide this tiny amount of calories, somewhere in between 100 to 150 kilocalories. In the end, we need to mention all the time that the brain is the organ that burns the most glucose by far. It's always active. It gets never saturated. And at the same time, so we nourish what is the noble functions of the body. These calories will not be accumulated by all means. The person is always active, even when you're receiving a treatment. In the end, we are always burning calories. We are always using it. Biochemically, there is a kind of antagonism of a buffer between the insulin pathways, or glucose-related, and cortisol, which is, again, glucose-related, but on the opposite way. While insulin is possibly the most anabolic, thank you, pathway, cortisol is one of the most lytic of these, or glycolytic, proteolytic, fat lytic. So it's we buffer what is a physiological, but still is a stress that rises in the morning in order for our body functions, for our brain function, our organism to work.
And I believe that, in the morning, what you want to do is you want really to downregulate the stress axis. I think that's important, considering the fact that people very early in the morning, they wake up, they do their normal walk or the exercise. Also, this will be followed after breakfast with intense treatments. You want to get this sugar into the body.
You want to replenish the glycogen stores.
The glycogen, because remember, we're only on 850 calories, and this is a very, very small amount of calories. I also want to pick up on the raw veg that we give at lunch.
So we give most of our raw vegetables in the lunchtime rather than at dinner, for the fact that we want to ease digestion at nighttime and not give too much to digest before bed, but it's also creating more satiety when you're chewing. So when you're chewing, you're taking time with your food, you create enzymes that connect your gut-brain axis, and it's helping you feel more satisfied after a meal than just doing liquids throughout the day.
Yeah. And at dinner, we serve the soup.
The soup.
Yeah. I mean, why soup in every meal in the evening? I think it has a hydrating effect.
Hydrating, soothing, and it's easy to digest, and at the same time being warm, it predisposes the body towards relaxation, calmness, and tranquility that should ideally precede anybody's sleep phase.
I think initially when Mr. Chenot introduced this, I mean, in addition to the effects you're discussing, he was relating very much to traditional Chinese medicine, to this ancient healing of warm food, and this Eastern food philosophy that you need to warm your organs.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept it over the last 50 years, so we've been doing, and with exceptional soups, and so the belief is that noise foods, support all the process,
mm-hmm.
and I think that is good. So we're eating little. Obviously, our clients are going through an emotional experience. You want to tell us a little bit about this, Felicia, and how the diet differs to other diets which provide just liquid.
The 850 calories we provide is not just low calorie. We're providing a restaurant where you're sitting with other people, you're socializing, you're taking your time to eat the next meal, you're not having distractions with phones or technology, and it's bringing you back to enjoying what's on the table and the interactions you're having around the table as well.
So you activate your senses in a way. Yeah, because you're looking at the food, you smell of the food.
You're tasting, you're eating slowly, which people normally, when they're working, they're eating out in a rush or standing, but it's giving you time to really enjoy your meal. I think
also there is a importance on the importance of chewing here. Mastication, I think I remember Dr. Chenot was always mentioning about mastication and the importance how the enzymes and...
A lot, because in the end, by fragmenting and chewing, we expose the food, let me say, more to saliva, so already to enzymes. So besides tasting, chemically, we already act, let's say we perform a pre-digestion, let me say, and that then it's then explained by, in the end, reduced risk for craving or overindulging with food, emotional eating. This, when we eat in front of an electronic device, which happens all the time nowadays, we don't really give the right amount of time for our brain to understand, realize, and ultimately release satiety hormones following a meal, which should take place. And this is what we do at Chenot. We place this symbols with please avoid phone use, anywhere, even in the gym actually, so that you can focus on what you're doing, whether it's eating and chewing carefully, mindful.
Yeah, because I think, the body understands, perceives with the senses, and, looking at the food, smelling at the food, I think all these are very important. Breathing, all this creates molecules, into the body, which is a natural process, and I'm in favor, to be honest, on solid foods. I know other people are doing liquids, but and very hard, intense, but I really, the direction we've taken at Chenot, I think it's a good one, and backed up with a lot of science. So people go through this experience. I want to ask, how do you come back to routine after the program, after this kind of what, guys? How do you reintroduce foods?
So in our final consultation, we actually discuss the transition back, and we say for the next 3 days, you can keep it plant-based if you like. The actual optimum time to do the detox is even up to 9 days. And then we say to slowly reintroduce proteins once per day, ideally at lunch. So on the first day of reintroducing protein, you start with chicken or fish. then you keep a vegan breakfast and dinner. The following day, you can reintroduce red meat, but again, keep it vegan breakfast and dinner. And then you go back to protein with every meal, just keeping portions little and chewing everything very slowly to see how your body is reacting.
And going back, what do we recommend how to detox periodically? I mean, or following this diet?
Well, periodically, anybody could really follow the indications. Could either we have a cookbook. We publish a cookbook which is called Detox at Home, just in front of us here right now, with recipes. And these are already
a few recipes, I think.
Quite many recipes, all good looking and good tasting, and that's why we also provide actually the cooking lessons every Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, we try to sensibilize on the use and to provoke, at least a little bit on the use of this self-fasting or fasting at home. And this is in order to keep up with the potential beneficial mechanisms that we already elicit during the stay at Chenot during such a journey. And then periodically, when it comes to fasting, you can really tailor whatever is best for you. There's people who do 1 day a week or 1 weekend a month or 3 to 4 times per year, 1 week.
Yes, I think I've seen some studies by Professor Walter Longo, who is on the fast-mimicking diets, who recommends that you can repeat these 5-6 days low-calorie diet, no proteins inside, for 3-4 times a year.
Every 3 months for 5 days.
Every 3 months. And this is a very powerful, rejuvenating practice.
Yeah, keeps on sending the message remember that you can live with less, essentially, at least for 1 week, and that you can re-educate your eyes, your brain, your drive to eat.
Yeah, I think this concludes our conversation on the Chenot Diet. I want to thank both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your good work you do on Chenot. And we will follow with a new episode in a month's time. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. For more, visit chenot.com. The information in this podcast does not constitute medical advice. Always speak to your doctor or another qualified healthcare professional about your individual needs.